Our schools have great sporting, recreational and learning spaces. These should be accessible to people in local communities. We want to ensure that schools are vibrant places where the community gathers to enjoy sports and other activities once the classroom door shuts for the school day. Most young people have spent a lot of time in schools as a student, and some possibly as a user of facilities after school hours. We wanted to know what young people thought about sharing school facilities with the community, asking them, what do they consider to be the issues? Are there any barriers? What are the benefits? And what is possible, and how can schools be successful in sharing school facilities? Schools play a vital role in building strong communities in South Australia, the kind of communities that are great to live in. Government school facilities are community assets, and sharing them has benefits for everyone. Our communities could be better connected and healthier. It's also about creating goodwill and cooperation between schools and community, and a positive role in the safety and care of children. Many schools already share facilities with their community, but what is stopping those who aren't? The Participation and Partnerships team from the Department of the Premier and Cabinet were invited to a Ministers' Youth Council meeting, seeking their thoughts and opinions on sharing school facilities with the community.
What I'd like you to do is we're going to have look at some possibly the barriers, as I said, and some of the challenges that are presented to schools of why maybe this is too difficult of a challenge, who's affected, the type of people. So what I'd like you to think about is your experiences possibly when you're at school, possibly now in how you see schools. Do you see them being utilised or shared? Are you involved in that space? And possibly how we can get round at looking at possibly solutions. And that's where I want us to go at the end point today, is the solutions. Can we have some solutions, particularly around the barriers? And this will hopefully, we'd like to use this information to inform the action group that the Premier has established around schools as community hubs to, at the end of the day, increase the number of the schools sharing their facilities with the community.
The first thing that we thought of, although it's not in order, was fostering community inclusion. So if you have a place where people are free to come, to play sports, just to hang out on weekends or after school, then it does foster some sort of community inclusion, as well as building an alumni connection. Governments love supporting healthier lifestyles. So you say we've got all these sport facilities available for people, or if they want to hire out a hall for yoga, then that's obviously something that will help someone's lifestyle. We looked down at actually supporting small businesses, so that people could, if there was a music teacher, as I said in the video, they could hire out the music room for teaching guitar, or hire out a hall for yoga, or things like that. And we also felt that it removed the negative school stigma. So around kids, school isn't the hip place to be. You don't kind of go to school because you love it. You go to school because you have to. So if you can kind of remove that stigma, as in, yeah, let's go to the school and play basketball, or chase each other on the oval until we run out of breath, or make daisy chains. I think that was our favourite suggestion. So it does remove this stigma from school. It can provide a bit of an income stream from the school if they decide to perhaps charge a small amount for room hire. I wasn't quite sure as to whether that's done at the school level, or whether that's done set by the state government. Or...
No, schools do it.
Okay.
Yep, schools do that.
Yeah. Indeed, it makes society more cultured. Public schools are often far more diverse in nature than the private areas. So if we can kind of get all areas of society mixing together, that can only be a good thing for our future. Maximising reach of public funds. Again, everyone's paying for these things that theoretically we should be able to use. Again, just going back to the small business, the school can be used as a hub for innovation, and I believe that says entrepreneurship. We're a little unsure on the spelling. And at the end, it provides a bit of promotion for the school. So, as we said, one of the big selling points of private schools is that it is a community, that you go there and there are certain kind of streams you can follow. These schools are promoted as being excellent pathways to wherever you want to go. So if we can really kind of start to use some of that language in talking about public schools, that would be a good thing. That's kind of where we got to.
Barriers, we had over-utilisation of facilities. So obviously if facilities are being used lots and lots and they're open 24 hours a day as opposed to the 9 to 3 day, then they can get sort of out of date quickly and sort of start to break down, so to speak. So obviously that would be a funding issue for maintenance and repairs that can be quite a burden. The next thing is child protection. So we had the discussion about there was a group of sort of 56-year-old males just kicking a footy. They hadn't hired it, but because open they're allowed to be in there, and you've got an after-school hours program at the same time. What happens then as far as child protection is they will need police checks to be in that space, so that's quite a significant issue in a school. The other thing we discussed was stability for children. So from the perspective of a vulnerable young person, if you come from a background of potentially like abuse or something like that and you're going to school, school is your constant, so you've got the same teachers, the same kids. If you've got people sort of in there all the time, that's not necessarily going to be a stable environment for you. That didn't come out right. We did say that could be a good thing though, because it extends the stability. So if you've got your school open 24 hours a day, it's a safe place for you all the time. So it could work either way. Regulation and management is another issue. So does the school administration then have to wear all the admin? So are they hiring it out? Are they providing security? All those types of things. Vandalism was another issue we had. So what happens as far as people being there? Are they going to ruin things? Is there going to be graffiti? Things like that. Who looks after that, and whether that would actually become an issue. Cost, obviously, it's going to cost lots of money to do that, just from the admin side, and it might also be a barrier for people wishing to hire things out if they can't afford it. Safety is another thing, so obviously there's just lots of issues that stem with safety. Legality and liability insurance is another thing. We don't necessarily know to what extent people will be covered after hours, and that can potentially be another financial implication.
From a public primary school, but in recent years I've been able to use those facilities. So before I was able to go kick the football and stuff, and that kind of led to a healthy lifestyle for me, because I knew every Saturday that I was going to be able to kick the football with my friend. Now there needs to be more about that.
I went to a rural public high school, so I'm all for services and facilities being used, because obviously in the country they're pretty light on anyway. I think the main thing with this policy is to consult with schools. So each different school and each different community will have a different idea about what is right for them and what would be the most use to them. So I think consulting with every school that takes this up is probably the best thing to do.
Maybe trying to limit the facility to your local demographic, just because that way you can ensure that the facilities there target that demographic and they're not being overutilised by people that are coming, from the outskirts and stuff. So.
Having heard what young people think about sharing schools as community hubs, their ideas will inform the broader community engagement. We want to hear from all parts of our community on how we can all benefit from sharing a school.